Take two, episode three. Hi, everybody. I'm your host, Aditi.
And I'm your host, Nidhi.
Welcome to Brown Noise.
As you guys can probably tell by the title below, we are going into Europe versus America. And in this episode, we're going to talk about how life is to live abroad as a brown person, how it's impacted us so far. And Aditi and I have two very, what I think are different experiences because we also live on completely different continents and we're both brown, but it's impacted us in different ways. So we will get into it today, and if you can relate to it, please keep watching and enjoy everything we have to say. All right. I would like to already break into this with my first question to you because it's a pretty unique feeling. And I don't know how many people can relate to this, but I'm sure people who've moved wherever, whether abroad or within the same country, might relate to this. And that question is, how did it feel to book a one-way ticket?
I have all of those feelings just like rush into my body. The rush started when I got accepted into my school, and I remember telling my mother that, you know what, I'm just happy I got accepted. I don't need to actually go there. Maybe that's not for me. I'm just happy I got accepted. I feel acknowledged by a good university abroad. And that was, sort of what gave me the satisfaction initially. And when it got closer and closer, there was just so much to figure out. Everyone who's gone through the visa process, you know that it's just a pain in the ass. Like, it's horrible to go through all of that. And mine was so close to the date I was supposed to be leaving. So it was just all in a rush. And then finally, and I could only book my ticket once I had my visa approved.
Ah,
So I had to wait till last minute, and in that rush I just like booked it, and in the next 5 days I had to pack all of my things and leave. And I'm just
my
like, oh my
God.
God, I'm not coming back. What do I take? How many bags are allowed? Like, it was just chaos. And I just remember feeling so excited and nervous throughout, because I mean, of course, it was the first time I was going out of the country ever in my life.
Oh,
And
wow.
I just knew I had to be there, because I was like, there's no other way I'm going to maneuver through these feelings. I just have to be there. And that was yeah, it was crazy.
How old were you when you moved and when all of this happened?
I was 22.
Mhm. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I
That's
just got out of engineering and took a break to
Mhm.
apply to all of the universities. And as soon as I got accepted in the next 6 months, I was like, okay, fine. Now the time has come.
Mhm.
And it was definitely scary because I hadn't identified who I was, and I was gonna go to an art school. And it was just, uh, I still feel so, all those emotions right now are just rushing through me. So I can feel it while I'm talking during this episode. So yeah. What about you?
I was 21 when I moved, and like you said, it was pretty similar. And I think maybe everyone can relate. If you're moving anywhere, I think even if you're packing for a sleepover, it's quite difficult, let alone having to pack your entire life into a few suitcases and then lug it across the seas onto a different continent. Pretty similar experience, and had to apply for the visa. I had to take a couple of exams to also then get accepted into university because I moved to Munich in Germany and I had to take a bunch of German classes as well. And um, yeah, all of that put together was just like, okay, one milestone, check it off, another milestone, check it off, check it off, check it off. And it was just a big checklist of things to do, even after I got accepted. So the feeling did not sink in until I booked this one-way ticket. And that is when it kind of hit me, which is why I also wanted to ask you, because you're so deep in work mode until then. Yeah, it was the first time I'd ever booked a one-way ticket to
Yeah.
anything. And my natural instinct was to immediately click on round trip. And my mom was sitting next to me and she's like, what are you doing? Like, you're not coming back anytime soon. I was like, oh shit. It was a pretty crazy thing. And I think I still have that physical ticket somewhere because it was just, yeah, a very different feeling to just shift your life to a completely different place and to essentially give yourself the chance to start over. So yeah, pretty crazy feeling. And if anyone out there has a similar experience, let us know how it was because I don't know, I'm genuinely curious because even when I wrote down the question, I got like some goosebumps. I was like, whoa.
You really understand what your life looks like when you're trying to pack it into suitcases. You're like, oh, this is who I am, these three suitcases is exactly what my life is, come
Yeah.
down to, and this is what represents me. It was funny to just figure out what I'm gonna put in those suitcases. One thing I also want to share is when when I left India, I had my whole family, friends, everyone come to the airport and they all helped me, place the suitcases one on top of the other. And I remember after that, it was me alone, and I had three suitcases, 23 kgs each. I remember I was like, I have overpacked, and I don't know how I'm gonna manage this by myself. And everything, I had to do everything by myself. And even to go get the trolley. I didn't know like in India it's free, but in the US you have to pay for it. So I was like, I don't want to pay like $3 just to help myself get this luggage out of the belt.
That's a good segue into what I want to ask you next is how were the first few hours or the first day when you landed and you had to take your luggage, go to wherever you were staying at and setting up? How was that first bracket of time experience?
I really like this episode because I am enjoying kind of going back to my journey.
We're parked on 43rd and Nostalgia. Does that sound correct to somebody who's lived in New York?
New York, 43rd. Okay, so thankfully I have some family in New Jersey. I'm sure every other Indian has family in New Jersey. It's like a mini India, honestly. Yeah, I swear, when I landed and I went to New Jersey, I swear I saw cow dung. I swear. It was so ridiculous. I'm like, I have landed in India again. Did I take the wrong flight? Did it just take a U-turn and go back to, oh my God, my earphones keep falling off. And then just, take a U-turn and go back to India. But so I had some family to come and pick me up from the
Mm.
airport, and I stayed with them for 2 days. And in those 2 days, I had to figure out everything because I didn't
Hmm.
have the right laptop. I didn't have any of the electronics, like nothing. I didn't have a bank account. I had to get everything set up in the first 2 days. I didn't have a phone number. I had to get a phone
Hmm.
number. Basically it was an endless to-do list for those 2 days. Um, it was very hectic, and I had to get, basic supplies,
Hmm.
just some soap, this, that, whatever I needed, a blanket for myself, like all of those things. So I remember just going crazy the first 2 days. And then I moved to another aunt's house. And then on the fifth day, I got dropped off at the place I was going to stay.
Hmm.
And oh my God, this you have to hear because I had I was subleasing an apartment with a girl I had met in Bangalore. So we met and we
Hmm.
realized both of us are going to Pratt, and we should figure out our roommate situation together. And so we had let an apartment. I mean, we sublet an apartment, and uh basically it was one room that both of us were going to share in a three-bedroom apartment. And I just remember standing there and looking up like, oh shit, now it's starts, that's when it really hit me. And my course was going to start on the sixth day. So I had one day to really get settled into my apartment. And the other girl hadn't come yet. So I remember walking in, carrying all the luggage, just very heavy stuff. New York elevators are so shitty. So I had to do some of it by the staircase, drag it up. And I was just exhausted.
Mhm.
And that house, oh my God, it was so crowded. There was one girl from China. She had two of her friends who were visiting her. There was one girl from India. She had both her parents visiting her, and it was me. So there were already six people, plus I was the seventh, and the girl I was sharing a room with was the eighth person, and one bathroom, one bathroom. And I was like, I don't know what's happening because we're used to a little bit of luxury in India, to be honest, getting everything done for ourselves and just moving there. And I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm sharing a bathroom with this random uncle I don't know, It was,
Shout out to ensuite bathrooms and the fact that in India, an ensuite bathroom is almost the default. So whoever thought of doing that in India, shout out. I am indebted to you. Thank you. And if you could come to all the Western countries and start doing the same, that would be really nice. Okay, sorry. That was yeah. The sponsor of today's video is ensuite. No, sorry, I'm kidding.
oh, sweet.
Ensuite.
So I was just, I broke down. Not I didn't cry, but I was just so stressed. I'm like, wow, I don't know whether this is an upgrade, a downgrade. Am I gonna just be struggling? What's going on? But yeah, that was like the first 5 days of my experience in the US when I just landed. Yeah, and what about you? I'm curious to know because you didn't know anyone in Munich, did you?
No, no, not really. It was just no, I mean a lot of people did ask me why Munich, why such a random choice. And I did know that I wanted to study somewhere in Europe just because I could kind of relate to the vibe of it a little bit more. And I was quite curious to experience something so different and really just give myself a chance to fully reinvent. I mean, that was also a little bit hard because it's a completely new language and it's not very easy.
Language. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom actually knew a former colleague of hers who was working here. So shout out to Indians being everywhere in the world. And he very kindly picked me up from the airport the day I landed. And I moved in February, the first week of February 2018. And for those of you who don't know, February anywhere outside of our subcontinent is winter, is the depths of fucking winter, and you get 4 hours of sunlight a day. And the day I landed, everything was covered in like deep inches of snow, and there was a blizzard going on, and I
Oh
could
my
see it
God.
once the flight was landing and we crossed the cloud cover. I was like, didn't we cross the cloud cover? And then I was like, oh shit, there is no sunlight coming through. And everything is just covered in white. And I think it was -6 the day I landed. So great welcome.
Oh
And
my God.
he very kindly picked me up. And, I was just like lugging all these three suitcases, just like you. And it's like this one here, that one there, trying to put it on the trolley. And I was like, oof, yeah, I've never felt more accomplished. I don't need no man feminism vibes. And he had a car, so he drove me to this place I was staying at. So I found this place just online on the internet where you can live with other people. So it's just a shared space. And I'd spoken to these two people online. They were kind of my age or slightly younger. And they said, yeah, I'm moving out. I need somebody to take over my room. And these are my flatmates here. And it was like a semi interview. and they seem to really like me. And now that I think back to it, this could have very easily been a scam because I had to already pay a deposit up front, and somebody just promised me that I could stay there. And I was like, yay, cool, see you in 2 weeks. So I showed up
All
there.
trust.
Yeah. So I showed up there. The colleague kindly put all my suitcases there, and he said, yeah, cool, see you later, bye. And it was just me, and I rang the door surrounded by all these suitcases and just like all these layers of snow, and my nose is red. This one core memory I cannot forget is that my mom had very kindly packed a few things for me to make as soon as I land. And of course, Indian moms being Indian moms, even if you're like, no, I don't need to take food, they're like, shut up and take it. You know, you need it. And I was never more thankful for having Maggie with me because the first thing I was like, I want to make Maggie. And then I walked in the snow freezing because obviously I didn't have clothes warm enough for that kind of weather. And I went to the supermarket nearby and I bought some vegetables and eggs to put into my Maggie. And then I got back home and I was like, this is what it's gonna be now. I have to make Maggie by myself. Oh no. And then I slowly set up the rest of the evening. And then I called my parents. I was like, hey, everything's amazing. It's great. Yeah, I'll call you tomorrow. I hung up. And then I just cried myself to sleep. And I didn't know if they were tears of accomplishment or tears of being so far away and really truly alone for the first time, or tears of, hey, you're finally getting a fresh start. But that was, yeah, little old me in a freezing room in Germany in the middle
Oh
of
my God.
winter. Yeah, that was a pretty funny experience.
I am I'm sure all Indians can relate. We don't have the pressure of having to move out of our houses. While we're 18, we thankfully have the support of our families throughout our
Hmm.
lives, basically. We can always stay at our mom's place, or,
Yeah.
we have that luxury. And they love to cook for us. They just love to do it. So we never need to do all these things by ourselves. We always have house help to do our laundry and clean the room. And we're just so spoiled in a lot of ways. And
Yeah.
I think going from that to being completely independent, and that too, it's not a transition, it's
Hmm.
just jumping into the fire. I think that part, it overwhelms you with
Yeah.
emotions. And I felt the same. I had all the emotions, all of the above, rush into
Hmm.
my brain. And yeah, I was like, I have no idea how I'm gonna do this, but I'm here now and I
Hmm.
need to figure it out. So yeah, it was definitely a wild, wild feeling.
Maybe now getting a little deeper into the episode. So, like I mentioned, Aditya and I are living in two very different parts of the world. We can safely say the cultures are vastly different because I'm in the heart of Europe and Aditya is in the heart of the United States. And because you've lived there for so many years now, and you've spent most of your 20s living and, growing and developing in the US, what would you say are some of your favorite things about living in the US? Maybe you can list 3 to 5 really integral things that you really appreciate about the life you can have over there.
That is a good question because I don't know how people are going to react to this, but to be very honest, living in the US lifestyle wise, it was hard. It was hard
Hmm.
throughout because, I mean, from there not being a bidet
Hmm.
to, having to use toilet paper to not knowing how to use their currency to doing everything by myself to starting my classes and just all of that. uh it was just all very hard, but it was new.
Hmm.
And I think that new feeling was something I was very excited about. That the one thing that was really great for me moving to New York was that I got to meet people from all over the world. It felt like I was a part of a slightly larger environment. I felt like I was part of something bigger. Even I had to go out to do laundry, I had to go to a laundromat just to do my laundry, and everything was hard. I cannot pinpoint good things about living in the US because for me it was all about uh my school. That's what made it
Mm-hmm.
good. Mentality wise, I'm much more broad-minded, and I do feel like in the US, thankfully New York isn't that way. It's slightly more welcoming and it's flexible that way, but the US in general is is in its own bubble, in the
Mm-hmm.
world. And I feel like that didn't really match with my free-spirited mentality, but the school was something that really drew me into the country, and that's
Mm-hmm.
the main reason I moved. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the roads are better, I guess. I mean, the subway system was great.
Mm-hmm.
Those were, I can only pinpoint like small things, probably point out more things that I didn't like when I moved to the US than what I did like, because I just feel like we had a good life back in India. But yeah, I don't know if that answered your question because I just
That's
knew that it was a good next phase in my life, and now I was there and I had to get through it, and that's just the mentality with which I went.
that's a really interesting and real take. I think people can get quite caught up in romanticizing moving abroad. And don't get me wrong, that part also exists, but maybe they don't get the full picture of everything you need to go through and all the different things you will experience that might seem like a big downgrade, like you said, from how we've been spoiled back at home in India with the fact that we have access to so many things so quickly. So, damn, yeah, I mean, that was a complete pivot from the question, but
Yeah.
that it makes sense if that's the experience you had. And maybe it'll also help some people who are deciding if they want to move abroad, where they want to go to hear how we've experienced life so far. Really evaluate what you're going there for, what your
Yeah.
expectation management. That I will sum it up. Expectation management.
I do have some advice for people who are trying to go to the US, which is I feel like it's very important to have your goals set right, at least if it's temporary or, just for a little bit at least, because if you go there and you have no idea what to do and you're trying to figure it out from scratch, being from a different country, that becomes hard. But when you
Hmm.
already have a certain destination and you have a goal that you want to achieve, then the country comes together to support your goal. And one thing that's really good about the US is that they do recognize hard work much faster than how it's recognized in India. The
Hmm.
competition is almost the same, maybe a few like lesser people in the US, but I would like to know what you liked about moving to Munich.
Um, I mean, for me, it was very basic things. Like I could walk out at night on the streets with no worry. I mean, it took me a while to get used to it, but midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., you you have street lights everywhere. You have public transportation that's still working, and I just felt much safer. And it is a fact that I
Yeah.
could not back at home step out once the sun sets and not fear for my life to some capacity. That was one of the first things. The second thing is people don't judge you as much, or maybe that was just the experience I was privileged enough to have. No one really cares about you, so you could wear what you want, you can speak the way you
That.
want to speak. Nobody nobody cares. And that was quite refreshing because it you go from a place where everybody is so all up in your business all the time, and especially people who have no business being in your business, are then in your business. And here, nobody gave a shit. And it was so liberating. Maybe the main thing is I think I got to really build myself here and achieve things because the things I'm good at, the skills I have a place here and are on the spectrum of recognition. Like you mentioned, if you have a goal, you're working towards it and you're putting in the effort, it will be recognized here. And I really felt that. University gave me a lot of self-confidence that I never experienced before. Like my friends and my professors were suddenly saying all these good things about me that I'd never acknowledged before. No one else in my life had acknowledged before because it's just not a thing people are looking out for back in India.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, are you being sarcastic? Like, are you trying to make fun of me? They're like, no, why are you tripping? Education felt a lot more practical versus extremely theoretical. And I think that was one of the reasons I was able to thrive here. So, again, this is not to shit on anything back at home. It's just different environments are suited for different people's growth trajectories. And this is what suited best for me.
Yeah, I know we're doing a Europe versus the US sort of episode, but to backtrack to your point about wearing whatever we can. In India, I could not wear, I couldn't even wear this and not be looked at, you know? And
Yeah.
it's just it's sad, and it is a little bit of an attack. I'm throwing it out there because I
Mm,
don't believe that women are supposed to be treated the way they are back
yeah.
home, you know. I never felt awkward in the kind of clothes I wore, and I remember just
Hmm.
exploring different kinds of styles.
We want to just feel safe. I mean, that is really the baseline of it all here, because style and everything is an added layer on top of that.
It has gotten a little bit better in Bangalore, I'm not gonna lie,
Hmm.
because I do see girls exploring different kinds of outfits in India now. When, yeah, I do think it's improved a bunch. We need to be creating a safe environment, and that's when you
Yeah.
see people thrive.
So having said all these things and knowing that, correct me if I'm wrong, you lived abroad now for about 7 years. Yeah. And
Almost. Yeah.
yeah. And then for me, it's almost 8 years now. What do you miss about home?
What don't I miss about home? Having the accessibility to everything within our knowledge. You know, we know where everything is available. We have an
Hmm.
idea of how to get things done. We have all our close friends who we've grown up with. It's a totally different bond, and it makes you feel so bound to an environment, you know, and just all of that wholesomeness that you feel around the people that you love and your family, of course, getting fed all the time,
Hmm.
eating such good, yummy food. Um, definitely miss that. I miss, yeah, it's mainly the connections and why I felt at home when I did, you know, back in India. It's just the feeling you can't get when you move out of the country. Like, oh yeah, we need to get some milk. Okay, I'm just gonna Blinkit. Shout out to Blinkit, by the way. I was so amazed. I know that everyone who's this is not sponsored by Blinkit, but you know, everyone
Not
who
yet.
not yet.
Blink it if you're watching.
Yeah, honestly, I was just so amazed that everything's like door-to-door delivery within 10 minutes and everything is updated to like a QR code system. Just a little sidetrack, but yeah, I definitely I miss everything about India. I don't miss the traffic. Um, but honestly, we had a good life back there, you know. I know I'm forgetting a lot of things because it's just been so long since,
Hmm.
you know, I've lived away, and I think when I go back and spend time there, that's when I realize what all I have been missing out on even more. But when I'm abroad, I'm mainly missing the people. What about you? What do you miss about?
You named all the important ones, the heavy ones. So maybe I will name some of the, I wouldn't call them frivolous, but of course, nothing in comparison to missing your family or friends. Um, I miss monsoon in Bangalore, the smell of rain, the really dark clouds, and the smell of the soil. I miss mango season so much. It's so hard, and I've not been able to make it back home during that time. So I really miss mango season. I miss celebrating festivals, and I kind of regret not maybe taking part in them as much when I still lived back at home. I thought I was too cool for life. I was like, I don't need to be a part of this. Just wake me up when the food is ready.
Yeah.
But now I wish I had been a little bit more proactively integrated into that. And yeah, just seeing people put up pictures, especially during Deepavali with all the lights, they get dressed up, the saris, the colors, that I really miss. And I really hate and miss not being there for the close people's birthdays or any special event in their life, weddings, not all weddings, some weddings, birthdays, just not being there with them to celebrate it and share the joy. And you get the dawning of realization that, yeah, you haven't been a part of this for very many years now. You're just not there. That's all. Wait, the food. Soul stop. No explanation needed.
Yeah. Oh my God, food.
Us saying all of this, now people will be like, yeah, then why did you leave? But hey, you gotta get out of your comfort zone if you want to grow, okay?
Yep.
So it is what it
Yeah.
is. Do you ever feel like a coconut because of this? But
1000%.
maybe
Honest.
maybe I should like explain what a coconut is for maybe people who don't know why I'm asking it. A coconut is a person who is brown on the outside, but whitewashed on the inside.
That is a good question. I know that a lot of people who have been living abroad for a lot of years, when they go back to India, they don't feel fully accepted in India, but they're not fully accepted even abroad because, they're not from there. So they're always in this in between sort of a
hmm
state. But if you are who you are, and if you focus on growing as an individual, and putting your individualistic energy out there to the people you're surrounding yourself with, you are going to get integrated as a human being first, and
hmm
then integrated as an immigrant. Develop who you are and recognize yourself. I never wanted to fit in. I wanted to create my space and make it mine. I didn't want to
hmm
feel like a stranger in my own home, regardless of
hmm
where I was. India will always be my home, but I did end up building myself my home over here. And I think now I could easily say that I have two homes, one that I
hmm
built and one where I was born into. Because of, who we are, your vibe will attract your tribe. And what about you? What's your experience?
I have a slightly different experience because I mean, when I moved out, I was rather young and I was also kind of escaping from Bangalore just because of whatever turmoil I was going through. And in a way, and this is all realization that's maybe happened now. I was kind of trying to run away from my brown identity a little
Mm,
bit. So I think I was trying to fit in here so much that I was whitewashing myself. And this wasn't happening consciously. It was just, I wanted to embrace this new thing fully. I said, okay, perfect chance for me to shed whatever identity I had back at home, and I will fully reinvent myself. And for a while, I mean, it worked. And a few years after, I started feeling a little restless. And again, this goes back to what we said in the previous episode. There's only so long you can run away from who you truly are. And at one point, I realized I also don't need to, you know? And once I started just embracing the fact that I'm brown and just being myself, it made life a lot easier. And yeah, maybe in this regard, I'm a little bit of a coconut, but for me, being a coconut means you can assimilate both here and
Yeah.
there. But yeah, for a while there, I did feel slightly stateless. I was like, okay, when I went back home, I was missing things about Munich. When I was in Munich, I was missing things about Bangalore. And I really just had to sit down with myself and be like, just enjoy whatever you can about
Yeah.
yourself and your surroundings in that moment. Appreciate that place for what it is at that point in time. And this also came with age. I think until the age of maybe 26, I was still struggling with some sort of brown, white, beige. What identity do I want to identify myself with? And then I don't need to pick. I could also just be all of it. Whichever part of Nidhi needs to come out, she will get the job done.
I like what you said because I think it's very important to remember that it's very easy to get overwhelmed with your new surrounding when you travel, and it's very easy to just yeah, it's very overwhelming. That's the right word because you just have such a new horizon and spectrum of things that you can do and experience,
Hmm.
and you kind of get sucked into it. And one thing we all need to remember and always have in our code is that this is our journey and this is what
Yep.
we are experiencing, and we need to like value every single moment of all of those experiences. And when we make it so personal, you don't have to pick a color, like you said, you don't have
Hmm.
to pick what color is going to define your
Yeah.
personality. That should come from within.
Yeah.
You can be whoever you want. I don't think it needs to be bound to such limitations. I think
Hmm.
if we expand who we are and not restrict ourselves to only what we've grown up with, and we're just looking towards what we want to be, I think we're
Hmm.
already eliminating all of those boundaries and we're just expanding so much more.
I like how this conversation's flowing because we are quite naturally making segues into some of the questions I have written down here. What are some of the life lessons you have learned having lived abroad slash still living abroad?
I have learned everything about myself. I started off when I was 22, didn't have a strong personality core, which I hadn't gotten a chance to develop that yet. So I think to really grow into the person that I am today, honestly, I don't know if it's the the artist that just takes over my whole body when I'm talking, or maybe this is just who I am now. But
Hmm.
um, I do feel like the lessons came from all of the struggles.
Hmm.
They every time I was going through something, that's when I learned the most, and I learned that being able to satisfy my own needs was such a big life lesson. And it was something I had to consciously learn how to do,
Hmm.
to be there for myself, to take care of my needs, and to recognize what I like, what I don't like, what are my
Hmm.
boundaries. And I think those are lessons that I'm going to carry for the rest of my life. So, yes, they are life lessons. What I am today, is the lesson, is a
Hmm.
result of the lesson. Oh yeah. Another life lesson I learned was how to manage my money. And I
Hmm.
think just being able to handle myself in a moment of crisis where I'm breaking down, being there for myself. Because sometimes I would have nobody to help me, and I would just be like, okay, I have to figure this out on my own.
Yeah.
And no matter how frustrated and exhausted and overwhelmed I am, I have to
Hmm.
get up and do it. And maneuvering through all of those emotions at that moment, it makes you grow and it makes you be stronger for
Hmm.
future obstacles to come, So
Maybe I can only contribute now by pointing out some smaller, tangible things that are, the Venn diagram is this is yours and mine is in it. I forgot what that's called, but it's a subset. Yeah, essentially. I would say one very important life lesson that I learned was to get rid of self-doubt. And especially once you are able to do things on your own for so long, and years later, you're still there, surviving, or better yet, thriving. You have enough proof now to get rid of all of this self-doubt. I was raised with a lot of self-doubt. It's not something I was born with. I inherited it. And everything I've gone through in the last 8 years of my life has helped me minimize that part of myself a lot because I have a lot to show to myself that self-doubt is unnecessary. The next one is the importance of financial independence. I'm not sure if I would have learned this the same way if I was still living with my parents in a house where groceries are bought, laundry is done, food is made, electricity, water, internet, everything is paid for. I don't think I would have learned the tricks of the trade and also ex how liberating it is to be financially independent, especially as a woman. And it opens up all doors for you, and you are not restricted and bound to anything. And I guess the last thing is running a household. It's like running a business. Truly. You are your own boss, you are your own employee, and you have tasks and deadlines all day, every day. And
yeah.
it's it was quite jarring to learn how to run a household already at a young age. Of course, it was my choice to dive into that.
Yeah.
But hey, we've already learned it now, and there are many people who are way older than us who still don't know how to do it. Yeah.
Spoon fed. Yeah, the satisfaction you get being independent and taking charge of your life is
Hmm.
so, it's just immeasurable. Like, it's very, very needed for everyone's,
Hmm.
um, yeah, it should be a part of everyone's life, honestly.
And that brings me to the last question that I have. And this goes out to maybe anybody who's watching, who's currently feeling homesick, a little bit lonely, you're feeling particularly far away from home. The kilometers just seem like they're never ending. And maybe to help you a little bit and to comfort you, share maybe some rituals that we have to make home feel like home and to make you feel a little bit grounded, a little bit more secure, and a little less alone.
Yeah, I do want to share one experience before I dive into this question, which is when I initially moved to the US and, it was the first week of my classes. It was just too hectic. I had this friend tell me that, I mean, shout out to that advice because it really helped me. He told me that no matter what you're going through,
Hmm.
during the day, make sure you get up and while you're drinking your cup of coffee, don't do anything else. Don't think about anything else. Enjoy that one cup of coffee. Maybe read a
Hmm.
book, read a magazine, do something, but don't think about work. Don't think about your responsibilities. Just for those 10, maybe 15 minutes in the morning, just go blank and give yourself that time. And I religiously followed that because I was getting too overwhelmed and I'm like, I need something
Hmm.
to stabilize my mind right now. And I did that and it helped me so much throughout my initial struggle. I was like, no matter what, I was looking forward to that cup of coffee in the morning where I could just relax, take it all in, and then feel ready and feel more like myself to embrace the rest of the day. Now, I mean, I have my little puja uh mandap set up,
Oh,
just to make myself feel at home. My little Ganesha
yeah.
travels with me everywhere. I did take time to get a good walk in every day just to listen to music and, go around the neighborhood, look at everything that's happening. You kind of feel more connected to the community you belong to. Just identifying some local shop that where you get familiarized with the vendor
Mm-hmm.
over there and you're
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh, hi, and he's meeting you every morning and
Yeah.
it makes you feel more like home because
Mm-hmm.
that familiar face is recognizing you as
Yeah.
someone who pops in every day. I believe that I have to release all of the pent up frustration in order for me to feel um comfortable in my space. So I used to always break the ice with my space by going crazy and dancing all around it. I would just dance all around the room. Like it makes you feel more connected to the space. It makes you feel freer. And it was, yes, I think it's all about these small
Yeah.
moments that
Absolutely.
really change the whole dynamic of how you feel in your home that you're trying to build from scratch. And yeah, I think these small little rituals, getting flowers, I always used to feel good when I
Mm-hmm.
got flowers for the house, made it smell good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big believer of like crystals and all of that stuff. So I used to, just making, and of course, I have to redecorate my space. I think that's the first
Mm-hmm.
thing I always focus on doing. And that really made me, settle into that
Mm-hmm.
space. I think those are most of the rituals I used to do. I'm sure I did a lot more to make myself feel at home. I can't
Mm-hmm.
remember them right now. What about you?
The first thing I did when I moved in to whichever new apartment was to hang up all the photos I had. So I had all these little Polaroids of me, my friends, my family, my dog, and I will admit most of the photos were of my dog, but I hung it up really close to my bed in a way that I could either see it just before I went to sleep or as soon as I woke up as just a good reminder that, hey, I'm not alone. In
Yeah.
thanks to technology, everyone's just a phone call away. So it's really not as bad as it might seem. So that really helped. And maybe if you're feeling lonely, try putting up whatever photos you have. I know you might have a million photos on your phone, but it really makes a difference to physically have them around and in your space. And it does give you a really good level of comfort. And the second thing would be to take yourself out on a date. You don't need anyone else to do it. And that goes in with what you said to take a walk, go around the neighborhood. You can also make it you can bump it up to the next level and weekly or every other week, take yourself out on a date, go to a nice restaurant and get that meal you've been thinking about or the dessert you can't stop thinking about. Go watch a movie by yourself. That's one of my favorite things to do. People find it so weird. I love going to the theater alone, and I'm sitting there with an excessively large tub of popcorn, and it's just me and the movie. And it's beautiful.
I love
So,
that.
or go to a museum by yourself. Just sit and stare at the art or the sculpture or whatever it is, and giving yourself time to be alone with your thoughts but in positively stimulating environments reinforces these thoughts to inherently turn out positive, even if you start from a really dark place. So I highly encourage you to take yourself out on a date to whatever tickles your fancy. And maybe one of the last things that really helped me was to put in the effort to cook a meal that would really comfort me. I mean, I'm from South India and South Indian food is my comfort food. And I learned how to make certain things and where I could source the ingredients as close as possible to create this dish. And I would take pictures and send it to my parents and be like, hey, say nice things about this. Please look how well I've done. So yeah, putting in the effort to learn how to make your favorite meal will really help you get out of whatever um, sad place you might be in. And if you guys have any other tips or tricks, let us know in the comments below. And this is really just to share to whatever community we're trying to build here.
I think you made a very important point, which is um, I think the best way to make yourself feel at home is to spend time with yourself and be comfortable spending time with yourself. I do want to promote that idea because it's
Hmm.
just so important for us to feel comfortable just being alone. I want everyone who is out there to like share their experiences with us because we want to know how what you do to spend time with yourself, and it would be great to hear other people talk about it.
We have reached the end of our third episode, you guys. Whoa, time is really flying. We're already at the end of our third episode. So thank you to everybody who is watching and or listening. We really appreciate the support. We really appreciate the support we've already been getting, even though we're just like this tiny little baby podcast that has just started out. So thank you very, very much. And please subscribe if you like what you see and comment, like, do all the nice little things you can with the buttons below. And we will see you next time.
Until then, turn up the brown noise.